Turns out Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will still get paid millions of dollars for doing absolutely nothing. Fucking energy out of you. But as humans, we like to hang out with people like that because we want to make them happy, right? It's our job. Oh, let's make them happy. Let's hang out with them. I'm his Purple Heart. My dad would say borderline racist shit to me.
When John Mulaney stepped onto the stage at Netflix's most exclusive event of the year, surrounded by the streaming giant's top executives, nobody expected what came next. In front of the very people who had signed Harry and Meghan's multi-million-dollar deal, Mulaney delivered a line that would make headlines around the world. Not since Harry and Meghan has Netflix given more money to someone without a specific plan. The room erupted. Netflix executives were caught on camera snickering and shaking their heads.
But I will say, I'm sure you've probably noticed that a certain show, Suits, has become a phenomenon yet again on Netflix.
But this wasn't just another celebrity roast. This was something much bigger. This was the moment Hollywood's private opinion of the royal couple was finally said out loud on the world's biggest stage. What started as a single joke has become a relentless comedy massacre, spanning 3 years. From the Golden Globes to Saturday Night Live, from Chris Rock to South Park, the entertainment industry has systematically destroyed Harry and Meghan's carefully crafted public image.
John Mulaney is not holding back. He brutally dragged Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's failed Netflix projects in front of...
Tonight, we're going to reveal how a handful of comedians accidentally exposed the truth that millions of people were thinking but were afraid to say. We'll uncover the jokes that started it all, the brutal reality checks that followed, and the one comedian whose takedown was so savage, it left Meghan's supporters speechless. But first, we need to understand how this comedy apocalypse began. Because what you're about to hear isn't just about a few jokes. It's about the moment an entire industry turned against two people who thought they could control the narrative.
Meghan Sussex, Prince Harry's fans, and the trolls, another day.
And it all started with one night in Beverly Hills that changed everything. The date was January 7th, 2024. The Golden Globes were in crisis mode. Their original host had dropped out just 10 days before the ceremony, leaving organizers scrambling for a replacement. Enter Joe Coy, a stand-up comedian who had exactly 1 week to prepare for the biggest hosting gig of his career. What happened next would trigger a comedy avalanche that's still burying Harry and Meghan today.
Under the dim light of a late winter afternoon, the gilded doors of Buckingham Palace stood motionless, a facade of royal calm.
Coy stepped onto that Beverly Hills stage, knowing he had nothing to lose. The teleprompter was loaded, the A-list audience was waiting, and Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos was sitting in the front row. That's when Coy decided to test the waters with a joke that seemed innocent enough. He started by comparing Netflix's hit series, The Crown, to HBO's Succession, calling them both shows about rich, dysfunctional families. The audience chuckled. Then he dropped the bomb.
Want to hear what I have to say, and I am responding to innumerable.
Turns out Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will still get paid millions of dollars for doing absolutely nothing. And that's just by Netflix. The camera immediately cut to Ted Sarandos, the man who had personally approved their massive deal. Instead of looking offended, he was laughing and shaking his head like he couldn't believe it either. That reaction told the entire story. Even their own business partner found the situation ridiculous. But the real damage wasn't the joke itself, it was what happened in the room.
It was a typical Tuesday night in Hollywood, until John Mulaney strolled out, all easy charm and razor-sharp wit, and dropped a bombshell that would...
Royal expert Phil Dampier nailed it when he said, "When you start to become figures of ridicule, you are in trouble." The Golden Globes audience wasn't just laughing at a punchline. They were laughing at people they had once taken seriously. In that moment, Harry and Meghan's transformation from respected public figures to Hollywood punchlines was complete. The industry had spoken and the verdict was unanimous. But this was just the beginning. What Jo Koy had started at the Golden Globes quickly spread like wildfire through late-night television.
On Sunday night, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were the targets of a brutal mockery at the Golden Globe ceremony. The charismatic host.
It was as if his joke had given every comedian in America permission to finally say what they'd been thinking. Within weeks, Harry and Meghan had become the most reliable punchline in Hollywood. Colin Jost struck next on Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update. During a segment about US-UK trade relations, he delivered what might be the most brutal joke of them all. President Trump also announced a new trade deal with the UK that will reopen British markets for American companies.
Hi everybody, it's Michelle and welcome back to the Royal Daily Tea.
He began innocently enough. Then came the killer punchline, all that Britain demands in return is that we keep these two. The audience exploded as photos of Harry and Meghan flashed on screen. The message was crystal clear. Not even their home country wanted them back. But it wasn't just the big networks joining the pile-on. Jimmy Fallon found comedy gold in Meghan's bizarre Netflix lifestyle show, where instead of actually cooking, she was caught on camera taking prepackaged snacks from one bag and putting them into another bag.
On Sunday night, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were the targets of a brutal mockery at the Golden Globe ceremony. The charismatic host...
Why does Meghan Markle make her own pretzel bags? Fallon asked his audience. They don't know why. She takes it from one bag and puts it in another bag. That confuses people. The absurdity was impossible to ignore. Even their supposedly private moments became public fodder. Stephen Colbert mocked their pet nicknames on The Late Show, questioning why two grown adults would call each other simply M and H. The couple's attempt at intimacy had become a source of nationwide ridicule.
Harry and Meghan or Will and Kate? Who are you taking?
Will and Kate, mate. Harry and Meghan, bro.
Will and Kate at least stay. If they want to go, go.
The most telling moment came when their own friend turned on them. Tennis legend Serena Williams was hosting the ESB Awards when she spotted Harry and Meghan in the audience. Instead of a warm welcome, she delivered a cutting joke that left them visibly uncomfortable. Please, Harry and Meghan, try not to breathe too much tonight, because this is my night and I don't want to be overshadowed by accusations you guys are taking up too much oxygen. The pattern was undeniable. Every major late-night host, every comedy show, every awards ceremony had found the same target.
Netflix executives snickered as a comedian took a swipe at Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex were...
But none of this compared to what was coming next. February 15th, 2023. That's the date South Park launched what can only be described as a comedy nuclear weapon. The episode was called The Worldwide Privacy Tour, and it didn't just mock Harry and Meghan. It completely destroyed their entire public philosophy with surgical precision. South Park's genius wasn't in the obvious jokes. It was in the details that cut straight to the heart of their hypocrisy. They renamed the couple the Prince and Princess of Canada and gave Harry's memoir the perfect title.
All about it in your new book, Where? Yes, that's right, friend. You see, my wife and I are totally like you should write a book.
But the real masterstroke was the central premise. The royal couple travels the entire world on a publicity tour, stopping in every country to do high-profile interviews about one thing: how desperately they want privacy. The episode opens with them waving signs that read, "We want privacy," while sitting on talk shows, doing magazine covers, and promoting their book. The absurdity was so obvious that viewers started questioning why they hadn't seen it before.
Okay, let's talk about what everyone's talking about. Harry and Meghan, the Netflix doc.
He sent her an Instagram saying...
One fan commented, "I found myself laughing more than I have in months. For two people who wanted privacy, somehow they ended up in Hollywood doing a reality show, an interview with Oprah, Spotify podcasts, magazine covers, and Harry writing a book." The show didn't stop there. They portrayed the princess as completely empty inside. not because of her background, but because of her obsession with personal branding. The prince was shown as weak and manipulated, desperately trying to convince everyone he was happy while clearly being miserable.
TMZ Live, Harvey Levin here.
Charles here.
So, Meghan and Harry had quite the night. It started out very...
The final scene was devastating. After traveling the world demanding privacy, they find a truly quiet, empty town. Their reaction? Confusion and disappointment that nobody was paying attention to them anymore. But here's what made the South Park episode truly dangerous for Harry and Meghan. It wasn't made by their enemies. It was created by the same Hollywood system that was supposed to embrace them. The entertainment industry had officially turned its back, and everyone could see it.
Chris Rock humiliated Meghan Markle and became the most talked about topic yesterday in the United States. The comedian made a series of jokes.
Yet even South Park's brutal takedown was just setting the stage for something much worse. If late-night TV had given comedians permission to mock Harry and Meghan, the stand-up circuit was about to remove all limits entirely. No censors, no corporate sponsors, no holding back. Just raw, unfiltered truth delivered by some of the most respected voices in comedy. Bill Maher was the first to deliver a philosophical diagnosis that cut deeper than any punchline. During an interview with Piers Morgan, he identified their core problem with devastating clarity. They want it both ways.
Chris Rock was brilliant during his Netflix special.
You can't be these people were so mean to us and poor us, and we don't want all this attention. And then, let me write a book about how much we don't want attention. Maher's analysis wasn't just funny. It was a complete dismantling of their public strategy. But Maher wasn't finished. He contrasted their constant complaining with the late Queen Elizabeth's approach to controversy. Never complain, never explain, and rarely be heard speaking in public. Then came his brutal verdict. You're just fragile. Just take a hint from the Queen.
If Prince Harry and Meghan Markle got divorced right now, people would probably...
For Maher, the spectacle of incredibly privileged people demanding sympathy was beyond ridiculous. You're complaining about your hard life and you're so privileged. It's just so weird. Across the Atlantic, British comedian Simon Brodkin delivered what might be the most honest reaction of all. I watched the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary, he confessed. Now, I'll be honest with you. Before I watched it, I was not a fan of theirs. But now I've actually heard their side of the story. I hate them.
What happens when one of the most polarizing figures in late-night television decides to corner a member of the royal...
Brodkin's transformation from neutral observer to active critic perfectly captured what was happening to public opinion everywhere. The stand-up world had reached a unanimous conclusion. Their story simply didn't add up. But all of these comedians were just warming up for the main event. Because one comedy legend was preparing to deliver a reality check so brutal, so perfectly constructed, that it would leave their entire narrative in ruins. March 4th, 2023, Netflix's Egyptian Theater in Hollywood.
Of Harry and Meghan on their very first tour. Finally,
Chris Rock was about to perform his first live comedy special since the Will Smith slapping incident, and millions were watching. But buried in his comeback performance was a segment about Meghan Markle that would become legendary for all the wrong reasons. Rock didn't just tell jokes about Meghan. He systematically dismantled her entire victim narrative with the precision of a surgeon. It started with her famous Oprah interview, where she claimed ignorance about the royal family's history of racism. Rock's response was immediate and devastating.
Chris Rock going after Meghan Markle. I wish you could play the clip for you, but you could take that up with Netflix. And again, it's not as funny whenever you read from...
Going on Oprah, I didn't know, I had no idea how racist they were. It's the royal family. You didn't Google these talking about. She didn't know. Then came the comparison that destroyed any remaining sympathy for her position. It's the royal family. They're the original racists. They invented colonialism. They're the OGs of racism. Rock paused for effect before delivering the knockout punch. That's like marrying into the Budweiser family and going, they drink a lot.
Chris Rock has called Meghan Markle dumb in his recent stand-up routine. He said that Meghan Markle shouldn't complain about the royal family being racist.
But Rock wasn't done. He turned his attention to her claims about concerns over baby Archie's skin color, the centerpiece of her racism allegations. I'm like, what the is she talking about? They're so racist. They wanted to know how brown the baby was going to be. I'm like, that's not racist. Because even Black people want to know how brown the baby gon' be. The audience was in shock. A Black comedy legend had just called out Meghan's race-based complaints as fundamentally dishonest.
Meghan Markle was on Oprah a couple years ago complaining about little Prince Archie, and he might not get the proper...
Rock then delivered his final verdict with brutal simplicity. Didn't she hit the light-skinned lottery? The implication was clear. She had won life's ultimate prize and was still complaining about it. Royal experts immediately recognized the significance of Rock's takedown. One analyst told Fox News, "It has to be a real punch in the gut." At the same time, the royal family can hardly be thrilled that Rock lambasted them as imperialists and the founders of modern racism.
Everybody trying to be a victim. Like, what's this girl, Meghan Markle? Seemed like a nice lady.
Rock had managed to destroy both sides of the argument simultaneously. This wasn't just comedy anymore. This was a cultural reckoning, but the most shocking revelation was still to come. Here's where the story takes its most twisted turn. Remember, Netflix was supposed to be Harry and Meghan's salvation. The streaming giant had given them a multi-million-dollar deal to create content and rebuild their brand. They were meant to be partners, allies in their quest for Hollywood redemption. But behind closed doors, a very different story was unfolding.
Asked for privacy. Meghan and Harry never asked for privacy. They didn't?
When John Mulaney delivered his crushing joke about Netflix giving money to people without a specific plan, something remarkable happened. The camera captured Netflix executives in the audience, and they weren't defending their investment. They were laughing along with everyone else. Sources at the event reported snickering and a few woes from the crowd. But the most damaging reaction came from Netflix's own leadership team. They found their own talent laughable. This wasn't an isolated incident.
Sore loser Prince Harry has revealed that he doesn't know how long his father has left to live, which implies...
Netflix had been allowing comedians to systematically roast Harry and Meghan on their own platform for months. Chris Rock's devastating special streamed on Netflix. The company was literally paying comedians to destroy the reputation of their own contracted talent. One industry expert explained the brutal logic. Netflix typically allows their comedians space to breathe. Translation: comedy content was more valuable than protecting Harry and Meghan's feelings. The numbers told the real story.
Now, I've already made a video.
While their initial documentary, Harry and Meghan, had performed well, everything that followed was a disaster. Their Polo documentary was universally panned. Meghan's lifestyle show, With Love, Meghan, had to be delayed and was reportedly undergoing re-editing after poor test screenings. Hollywood insiders whispered that the show was being completely reworked because the original version was unwatchable. Meanwhile, Netflix was quietly distancing itself from the couple.
Meghan Markle's magical mystery tour. Privacy, schmivacy. So, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry...
They were noticeably absent from the company's prestigious season launch event, where dozens of other projects were highlighted. The message was unmistakable. Netflix had buyer's remorse, and they weren't trying to hide it anymore. The streaming giant that was supposed to launch their Hollywood careers had become their biggest liability. But this betrayal was nothing compared to the cultural earthquake that was about to hit. What all these comedians had accidentally uncovered wasn't just...
Like, I curtsied as though I was like...
material for jokes. They had exposed a fundamental shift in American culture that Harry and Meghan completely missed. The era of professional victimhood was coming to an end, and they were caught on the wrong side of history. Comedian Tim Dillon put it most bluntly during a Fox News interview. I think it's just that she came to prominence at a time when there was a real cultural cachet to being a victim. And I thought it was a very funny way to be a victim. And she found a way to be a victim while living in a castle.
Everybody trying to be a victim. Like, what's this girl, Meghan Markle?
Dillon had identified the core absurdity that was driving the comedy backlash. Meghan had mastered the art of victimhood at the exact moment American audiences were getting tired of it. The cultural diagnosis went deeper. Royal expert Shannon Felton Spence explained why the comedy was so effective. Stand-up comedy shines a light on what people are thinking and feeling. Harry and Meghan should have built resiliency and humor into their public brand. To do that, they would have had to take accountability, laugh at themselves, and produce something other than grievances.
This embarrassing video that is going viral on social media clearly shows the distressed expression on the faces of Prince Harry.
But they had chosen the opposite path. Every interview, every documentary, every public appearance was built around the same theme: how badly they had been treated. The public had initially been sympathetic, but sympathy has an expiration date, especially when it comes from people living in multi-million-dollar mansions. Another expert nailed the broader cultural shift. I think victimhood has been a very lucrative brand for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, but there is no longevity in victimhood.
I know what she's going through. I know what Meghan Markle's going through. I know her dilemma. Black girl.
People are tired of listening to two privileged individuals complain about the mundane. The comedians weren't creating this sentiment. They were simply reflecting what millions of people had been thinking but were afraid to say out loud. The timing couldn't have been worse for Harry and Meghan. They had built their entire American brand around being victims of an unfair system, just as American culture was rejecting victimhood narratives from privileged people. The comedians had become the voice of a frustrated public that was done playing along with their performance.
Netflix executives snickered as a comedian took a swipe at Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex were...
But there was one final twist that would seal their fate forever. The final twist wasn't another joke or another comedian. It was the realization that this comedy backlash had revealed something profound about power, authenticity, and public trust in the modern age. Bill Maher identified what might be the most infuriating aspect of their entire project. And I will not bend the knee and just go along with the nonsense. That's what's so annoying about them the most of all.
Meghan Markle said she cried over South Park, but the rest of the world just laughed. Where this all began was in February of 2021 when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle...
They insist that you go along with their nonsense and their insanity and their fragility. This was the core of the cultural rebellion that comedians had accidentally sparked. It wasn't really about Harry and Meghan anymore. It was about the public's refusal to be told what to think, feel, or believe about two of the most privileged people on earth. The laughter echoing through comedy clubs and late-night TV studios wasn't just entertainment. It was the sound of a narrative collapse. The transformation was complete.
Breaking right now, Meghan Markle's as-ever catastrophe is far worse than we...
The couple who had once commanded global sympathy and respect had become Hollywood's most reliable punchline. Their carefully managed public image, built on victimhood and moral superiority, had been systematically destroyed by people whose job it is to find the truth hidden in plain sight. The comedians hadn't created this narrative. They had simply held up a mirror to what millions of people were already thinking. But here's the most damaging part of all. The comedy backlash exposed that their entire American dream was built on a foundation of sand.
There's this documentary coming out about Harry Ballgame. Prince Harry, or former Prince Harry, I don't know what he was.
They had moved to Hollywood thinking they could control their story, manipulate public opinion, and cash in on their royal connections. Instead, they discovered that in America, nobody is immune from being called out when their actions don't match their words. The final question isn't whether Harry and Meghan can recover from this comedy massacre. It's whether they learned anything from it. Because in a culture that increasingly values authenticity over authority, the couple who demanded that the world take them seriously had become the perfect example of what happens when you try to have it both ways.
I want them to make a completely clean break. Go and get the freedom you say you want. That means you don't keep all the titles which give you...
So when you strip everything else away, what does this comedy backlash really mean? The story of Harry and Meghan's destruction by Hollywood's funniest voices wasn't just about a few good jokes. It was about the moment an entire culture decided it was done playing along with a performance that had stopped being believable. The laughter you've heard throughout all of these clips isn't just entertainment. It's the unmistakable sound of a story that people no longer buy.
Here's Chris Rock going after Meghan Markle.
That she went through was not racism. It was just
The comedians didn't create this narrative collapse. They simply became the voice of a public that was tired of being told to sympathize with people living better lives than they could ever imagine. In the end, Harry and Meghan learned the hardest lesson in Hollywood. You can control the interviews, manage the documentaries, and craft the perfect social media posts, but you can't control the punchlines. And once you become the joke, everything else becomes much, much harder. The court of public opinion has delivered its verdict through laughter, and the case is officially closed. What do you think? Have Harry and Meghan's Hollywood dreams been permanently destroyed by this comedy massacre? Or is there still a path back to relevance? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.